What's up, bright and beautiful souls? It's your boy, Sheer JC, at the Sheer Life. Now, my life vlog, the Sheer Life View. We last left off on my childhood, which, to basically sum it up for anybody who's watching this video first, definitely go watch that other one, although I was kind of a schizophrenic mess. Didn't really have any organization whatsoever. But to sum it up, I was born. My parents immediately divorced. It was a hell of a show before and after my birth. But I had a fairly good childhood. I was so privileged. I was so blessed. I always had great food. My mom was a professional chef. Still is, but she doesn't own any restaurants anymore. But I always got food in my stomach, warm bed, place to stay. Everything. I'm very grateful for my childhood, but yet at the same time, there's a lot of things that I carry from my childhood that have debilitated me, like not really being raised with too well of any skills. No offense to my mother or even my father for any of that, but you know, it is what it is. It was what it was. So we left off with that, being raised by media, television, video games, entertainment. Made up a huge part of my life, and that was where I, took from and learned from. And I know a lot of people have those similar issues because, family isn't perfect, of course, but a lot more people nowadays are very much raised by media, television. Now it's social media with, Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, everything now. So it's kind of the same deal, except it's a lot more instantaneous. But with that said, that was my life, and I'm grateful to have lived it. It taught me a lot of things, and I went through a lot of trials and tribulation that made me who I am. No regrets here on this channel. Absolutely none. So, continuing on where we left off, adolescence, young little JC, having been privileged, yet also not too enriched per se, to some extent, but no developmental skills, basic schooling, American schooling. Gotta love that. Makes us great people. And in my home state, we have the most educated people in all of the country, which is really sad because half the people in my state is well, I won't get into the negatives, but we left off at adolescence, having been privileged, having going through a lot of trials, traumas, all that sort of thing, growing up. So now, I think we'll embark on the teenage years. Basically, everything that I've capsulated in the last one, the last life log, the Sheer Life View, it was basically from birth to maybe 11 or 12 years old. Yeah, around that time, because I had experienced a very similar life up until that point, and so begins my teenage years. 13, teenage, 13, teen. You get it? I'll probably edit this. Well, yeah. So, everything that I described in my first video was up until that point. We went through a dramatic shift in our lifestyle because my mom, I think I might have covered this in my last video, I'm not sure, but my mom had trusted her accountant with all of her finances for her business, for her personal, to the point where she had given him her signature stamp, and so he used that to embezzle all of her funds and left us impoverished, dependent off of this guy. I'm not blaming my mother for that. Of course, that's not a smart decision that you make. But, she did what she thought was right. Nothing on her. I think I did leave off on this. So around that time, especially starting my teenage years, 13, was when we went through a lot of changes. We lost our house that we were living in. We had to move into the accountant that my mom had's house because they developed a personal relationship over the years, which is how people of his ilk gain the trust. They get into every part of your life, so they seem completely normal. They're not doing anything bad. So with that said, we had to pack up, move. We didn't have any money. We didn't have any money for years, for at least like a good year at that point, maybe even longer than that. I can't exactly remember. But yeah, shit was hard. Shit was really hard. And so we had to move out. We owed so much back rent, we couldn't continue living at our current address. So the smartest decision for us at the time was to move in with him, even though we were fully aware as kids, me and my sisters. Well, I can't really speak for my sisters. I know I have one older one and two younger ones. Maybe the younger ones weren't really fully aware of the situation that was going on. I'm not sure about my older sister. I'm pretty sure she was, but I don't think she processed really much of anything during that time. But regardless, I was fully aware of the situation that was happening. We were pursuing this guy in court, and we were, trying to seek justice. And I had that in my head, like, oh, we'll get to this guy, justice will prevail, 12, 13 years old. And having to hear that we have to rely on him again, despite all the things that he'd done, the courts weren't taking it seriously because of the circumstances and the amount of money owed. It was really fucking hard to process that. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that life would ever work that way. When we're kids, we think everything is like a lot more simpler and a lot more straightforward, as it should be. But unfortunately, that's not the case, ladies and gentlemen. That is not the case. Having heard all that and seeing my mom so infuriated over the situation and wanting to pursue justice, I cheered her on. I rooted for her. I did everything I could. And then to have her here, like, we'll have to move in with this guy. Everything is fine, even though I know it's not, caused a lot of stress. Of course, not just for me, my whole family. I'm not just talking about me here, but here at the SheerLifeView, that's what we talk about. Me. So processing that at 12, 13 years old, I forget which age I was at specifically, but it was on the border, cross from adolescence to teenagedom. And very heavy stuff, very hard stuff to digest. I couldn't process it. I still held that belief that he should be brought to justice and, that it wasn't right. But, you can only do so much. Your power when you're a child. And so we ended up moving with him. It didn't work. Long story short, I spent my first year of high school living there, I believe, actually only 6 months from the summer of that year into a little bit of the new year. I think around January we ended up moving out, and I forget what happened. My family and we moved into a hotel, and the hotel was really nice. They cut my mom a really good rate for the home suite kind of thing. It has like 2 bedrooms and stuff, and a pull-out mattress. So it was really good for us at that time. But things did get difficult. My mom being impoverished, it was so hard for her to make money. She struggled so much during that time. I can't even comprehend what she went through, and we could see what she was going through. It was terrible. It wasn't really, I didn't really like feel bad about living in a hotel or anything like that, because at least we had a place to stay. A lot of people that go through similar situations like that don't have that necessity, that need, even though, it might be a necessity to some, it's a luxury. So we're grateful to have had that. And, but the stress on my mother was so unbearable. And, it led me to a lot of isolation from a lot of my friends, a lot of self-isolation, just doing what I knew, playing video games, making my life, living hell. To financially ease the burden off of my own mother, I ended up moving in with my grandparents and my dad, because they all live in the same house. And I was grateful for that. It made going to school easier, because we were in the same city, but where my grandparents lived, it was a lot closer than having to drive from one part of the city that's all the way on the outskirts towards the center, versus like kind of being on the outskirts still, but like having a school bus route really, really close, like right in front of my grandparents' house. And so I was grateful for that. It wasn't easy, dealing with school, dealing with the situation. I'm still grateful to have had the opportunity to always have a roof over my head, always have food in my stomach, and everything like that. But through those years, you're digesting the situation, and it's still fresh in your mind, even year or 2 years later. It definitely led to a lot of anger and resentment as a youth, and especially for the systems in place, seeing how they actually work. Of course, government and the judicial system. There is no true justice, and I don't care where you are in the world. Sometimes there is, but there's no true justice because true justice would happen all the time. Um, we're getting kind of long here, so I guess I'll make it another parter. So I just barely scratched the surface of my teenage years. This is like the transition from my youth. Well, I mean, it's still my youth, my adolescence to my teenage years. And I guess I'll spend a few minutes just talking about, that developing. I was still grateful for a lot of things, but a lot of anger was really embedded in me for what had happened with my family, even before, because there was a lot of tensions between my dad's family and my mom's family before that I actually learned about during this process. It really changed me a lot, and of course, it made me who I am, so I don't regret anything, but it was a lot to handle, especially for a 12, 13-year-old, realizing that there was so much tension I didn't even know about between my mom's family and my dad's family. Basically a full-out war that was dragged out way before my birth and way after. And having to go to school during all this, worrying about my family. We did end up having a house that was very close to my school by the time I was in my sophomore year of high school. So we were all united again, and my mom was able to financially support all of us, which that's a blessing from the Lord. It really was. That situation was really good, even though, we still weren't a perfect family, but it was a lot better for us. Through my teenage years, I really held a lot of hate, a lot of resentment, a lot of anger in my heart, and especially towards God. How could a God allow somebody to live these things, and how could he allow people to do these to other people? I won't get into the religious side of it, of course, but a lot of anger and a lot of resentment, and it was very internalized. I didn't have any healthy outlets at all whatsoever. Then began my experimentation with tobacco, with, can I even mention any of these things? With T, with C, and A. And it wasn't too heavy until I got maybe into 16, 17. That's when shit really popped off. That was my outlet for a very long time. More smoking, if anything. I wasn't too much of a drinker at that time. But through it all, I did have some good outlets too. I always had my friends. My friends really held me together for a long part of it. Without really fully understanding, what I was going through, because, we're kids, we barely even talk about, like, really deep emotional stuff. But, I always had great friends that always, their families, like, always picked me up, always, had me over. My one friend from my youth, Jeremy, sorry if I, name dropped him, but there's a lot of Jeremys out there. He was a very good friend of mine. Andrew, I had very good friends, and a lot of people don't even have that either. So I'm very grateful to have had them as my friend. They're still kind of my friends, but we haven't talked. We're adults. We took way different paths in life. Trust me on that. I've still had a lot of blessings, and I definitely would not have been the same person I am today without that. So I am still grateful for a lot of things, but I did go through a lot. Dealing with the very dramatic shift in lifestyle, in family life, and waking up to the world and how it really works, how people really work. It's a lot of shit to deal with. And so I think we'll end it there because we're at a 15-minute mark right now. I don't want to bore you guys completely. So we're kind of like in the start of the fun part of my teenage years. We went through the kind of the trials of turmoil-ish stuff, very dramatic lifestyle change, being homeless, I guess, but, you know, didn't really feel like that because I was always blessed to have something, and as well as my mother and my sisters as well. But I'll go into the details of my life with recreational substances and my dependence off of that. Nothing too dangerous, but, you know, typical kid stuff. And an encounter that I had in my sophomore year of high school involving my friend, his girlfriend, and me. That's gonna be a whole video in and of itself, so definitely stay tuned for that, everybody.